I used to, in the old days, play Dungeons and Dragons. All the time I was the Dragon Master. I'd play with my children. We didn't watch a lot of television. We told stories at night, and I would always tell them. My oldest son, Calvert, loved Dungeons and Dragons, and he loved fantasy. And um, he he was in the Navy, and he came home on a visit, and he ended up being in a terrible accident, and he died. And I had all these children. I was two of the girls, two of my daughters were pregnant and about to give birth any minute. We were planning a wedding that was like in a month or two. And I was expected to do all that. And I didn't feel anything. Like I just was so numb and it was so difficult. And in my whole life, my entire life, from the moment I could put a sentence together, I wrote stories. Like they were awful when I was young, but I wrote every single day and I couldn't write. And it was like I was walking through that every day and doing everything I was supposed to do, but I was completely numb. And one day I started thinking how to get back and how to do it. And to me, it was family and the love of my family. And and I did feel like I had no color in my life. And so that became the world that I started building. Um, and I had a younger son who was very interested in sort of the same things that my oldest boy was in, and he was quite a bit younger. I think Cal might have even been out of the house by the time he was, but he would talk with me. I would talk over the fight scenes and all these different things, in the evenings, and then I'd go in and write. And that's really how the whole world was built. There was no publishing house that was taking uh, any paranormal stories like that anymore. They had been, and then they completely stopped. And I honestly, I didn't really know anything about the publishing business, and I was at a point where I needed to figure out a way to make money because my kids, for some reason, really felt like they needed food. And my friend said, "Oh, send your stories in." I said, "Nobody's going to even read them." And the publishing houses wouldn't read them until Dorchester did. And then right away, she called me and said, "We want this book." And I hung up on her. I was like so shocked. And I'm like, "Oh my God, they really are going to want this book." And it was so much a part of my life and so much a part of me that I wasn't really sure I wanted to sell it. And then, of course, I did. But for me, the Carpathians were of the earth, and that allowed me to come up with shape shifting and all the animal things that I love. I really love research. And so everything that I loved, I could put into my world. I was able to, you can move, you wouldn't even know they were there, and they can be walking down the street in New Orleans with you, and you have no idea that they're even there. And so as a mom, boy, did I wish I had that trait. So anything that I really felt like, oh, this would be great. And then the injustices in the world, I could write them. And then I did a lot of women's issues, like one time they have problems having babies. And so I did a lot of research on miscarriages in countries around the world and what caused them. And that, all those things I was able to put into a book, things I was interested in, but I thought other people could learn these facts from. So half of the book is actually true. And then the other is total fantasy. Of course, the prince, the first one, and he's in quite a few of the books. And then Gregory was his second in command, and he was probably my most, and remains my most popular character. Everybody just absolutely loves him. And sometimes he drives me crazy. And, and sometimes these characters, I'm just like, okay, I have to torture you a little bit because you're making me crazy. But Gregory was always, he's always one that I enjoy writing about. And then I have the De La Cruz brothers out of South America, and I really like them. They're very different from the ones in the Carpathian Mountains. So that's been fun. When I write a book, I totally disconnect. Like I'm not there. They're telling their own story, and it absolutely is their story. So their voice is very loud in my head. And when I want the book to go in one direction, they'll just stop moving. They won't talk, they won't do anything until I figure out, no, they don't want to go here. They want to go over here. So they're very real to me. And I know their character. I know their voices. I know if I'm in a room with 20 of those guys, I know exactly who is who. It all comes back to the lack of emotion and the feeling of no color in my life. And so the premise is that the males start losing they're born, when they're born, their soul is split in half, and all the darkness goes into the male and all the light goes into one female somewhere out there who can be born over and over and over again while the male looks for her. But if he loses his ability to see in color and to feel emotion. And so in order to uh, so they also can become vampires. So if they kill, they feel something, they feel this rush. And so that temptation is constantly with them, and they have to fight that and be honorable to find that one person who can restore their emotions and restore that color. So it really comes back to finding love and finding a family. And so that's really the premise of the book. They have to go through countries and look for her, and time. Sometimes it'll take, 1,000 years to find that one person. One of the things that everybody loved, this book called Dark Celebration that I had. And it was kind of a where all the characters came together. But at that time, I only had a few, so it was really easy to write that book, and it was fun. But everybody, all my readers write to me and they're like, please, let's do another reunion. But there's so many now, and they're in different countries. So I envision this journey where the first couple, they go to Peru, which some of the characters are in there, all the Jaguar characters. And so I have my reunion there. And there's an underlying thread that is happening with the book as the males are hunting somebody who escaped, and he's a really scary guy that they're trying to find. But anyway, so the first book is Peru, and so all my Jaguars, and I can do a reunion there, and you catch up on the families and the kids, and it is natural to do that. I don't bring characters into a book because people want me to. It has to be natural to that book. And then the second book is South America, and that's going to be all the De La Cruz when we catch up there. And then we will go back to the third book will be the Carpathian Mountains. So those are all mapped out. And so they're reunion books essentially, but there's this thread going through them where they're hunting somebody.